Hey, it's Rita and Scott. Another Cosmic Dialogue. I'm doing this outside on my patio, so whoever listens in the world listens. Um, but we're talking about the time in the future where the trances were broken and what it took, what that was like, what we experienced when collected trances around the world were just broken. So, do you want to start? Or do you want me to start?
I'll start.
Okay. I'll let you have the screen and I'll mute because I'm outside.
Oh, okay. All right. So there was a time when it seemed that everybody was under one form of trance or another. And Scott and I were just really noticing what it did to people, to communication, and how impossible it seemed to break through. And we just started asking the question, what is the most effective way to break a collective trance? And what the answer we were giving, of course, had to do with love and truth, and really being in love and truth. So it was not going to be like a violent jolt, but it would be a jolt. And the jolt, as I think hypnotists have known for a long time, is what breaks a false belief or a pattern. So we were looking for a loving jolt so that it could be done with more ease and as a choice to come out, eyes blinking in the brightness outside of the trance, where judgment of someone else's trance was seen for what it really, just kind of how ridiculous it was to be judging someone for being in a trance while you are also in a trance. So we just started experimenting with different ways of being further in love and truth for the purpose of creating greater ease in the world, even though we could see that the path that the greater population was moving towards was something quite traumatic. And certainly trauma can break anyone out of a trance. And if God and the universe has to has to allow a trauma created by humanity's own choosing in order to come out of a trance, and that's the most loving way, given the circumstances, that will happen. But we felt that the more we focused on an ease out of the trance, that it could bring it about more. It could bring it about instead of a trauma. So Scott, how did you go through that time during the experimenting?
Oh, the experiments were very interesting. I remember initially my resistance, and but it came to me like through silence more. I was, hold on a second, some people are speaking outside. But I found that like breaking through that trance took me being extremely quiet, and and then just sort of living my life. That was a big change, and it almost took like a counter practice for the whole of society. Um, and yeah, actually, the whole. Hold on a second. I have a. There we go.
It's bright green.
Yeah, it's all right. So what we didn't know was that the whole situation that folks were in 2020 was a huge counter practice to bring more people out. What we didn't know at the time, because we did see, you and I, we kind of saw, oh, people are very hypnotized. People are very entranced in this. People are responding just as the ways of the predatory class would want them to respond. It's like a domino effect. But what we fail to actually give enough credence to were those people who were quietly coming out of it. And it was kind of a quiet revolution of folks who were coming out of a trance, who were actually starting to take responsibility for their life, who were actually choosing day by day. I'm not wearing a mask. I'm peeling off my mask. And who are realizing that this mask also symbolized that they kind of kept themselves undercover or masked or not the person that they were meant to be. So looking back now, we do realize that a lot of it did happen. There was a big portion of people who did come out of a trance at that time, but it was quiet. And then people started like talking about it. It was it's interesting. Not a lot of the folks like this even like needed support groups, because there was, oh my gosh, there's so many post COVID-19 support groups right now. But none of these people who kind of broke their trance needed that. None of those folks who, decided and got healthier throughout that, they didn't need the same systems that were in place. So that was, I think, a first wave. And it was covert. The larger awakening from a lot of trances, trans plural, came from, well, we did have some earth events that happened, and those were loving earth events. We needed those loving earth events for correction. Many people having to go through another harsh winter of events, and then that second round of it's spring, it's summer, and we're seeing the light again, combined with some earth events, really did show a few more subtleties. And then there were some political upheavals. But we saw them not as upheavals, but as corrections, and incredibly loving given the circumstances. And throughout the long, and it also took seeing the long vision of things, and also showing that, okay, there's some upheaval politically, but let's look 100 years into the future for this. And when people started seeing a longer view, they weren't just so worried about what's coming for the next 2 weeks, what's coming for the next year, what's coming for the next 4 years. When people started taking a longer view, and that became more of a mainstream to talk about, then there was an awakening. And actually, I'm even in our clusters, we see, like, we've shared this cosmic dialogue technique with people too, who were interested. We didn't impose it, we didn't force it, we didn't even try to advertise it. It just sort of happened. And as we shared this, and people started waking up and actually creating their lives from the future instead of from a past or a present that was underneath that needed some sort of outside approval. So that's what I found. Subtle first, and then earth corrections, earth events, political upheaval, but those were actually gifts, huge gifts. And when people recognize them as gifts, it was like, okay, now it's all different.
Yeah. And back then it was difficult to, I don't know if you hear an echo, but now I do.
Here we go.
Oh, actually, I think it may have gone away, but it was difficult to fathom those kinds of things as gifts. I mean, you and I had been looking at various circumstances in that way for a long time, and always looking for the gifts, even in difficulty and struggle, and being grateful for whatever had caused any kind of suffering. But to explain that was difficult at that time. But just as it happened for you and me, prior to that, we could not deny the positive outcomes from various hard circumstances. And then the more that we focused there, the hard circumstances became less and less. If we just went straight for looking for the gift and feeling gratitude and appreciation for everything that came to us and feeling completely worthy of receiving ease, receiving abundance easily, even if others were not even focused towards anything positive or abundant. So as we got to the point where we couldn't deny it, that started happening around the globe, because it got to the point where, what else are you going to do? I mean, we're in it, so we might as well look for the best thing that's here right now. Yeah.
You and I also realized that once we started speaking about this opportunity to break trances, once we spoke it into reality, we put it on a channel, even though our channel only has like 20 something subscribers. Once we like did that, we noticed that there was like some sort of an energy wave, like we've always done, like among like the more intuitive collective of folks that are around us and who are prevailing in social media, or even locally, or even like secretly. All I had to do was like one of us, you and I, someone else, to start exploring these topics and to bring these energies to life in such a way that we really believed it, in such a way that we felt the feelings surrounding that. Wow, we've broken trances. We are able to do that. We are able to speak from a possible future and bring it into this right now. And then it started happening all around us. So we have to be cautious in like thinking, because the notion in our society is mostly, well, that can't be. Just because one person speaks that into and one person breaks out of their trance, it doesn't mean that like that there's some psychic voodoo magic that happens. So we have to watch ourselves, because the largest thing that the biggest connection we have in this world, in this consciousness, is our connection to spirit, our connection to God, our connection to light and to the universe and to all that is, really. There's no real separation between us as energy beings. And once we believe that and feel that, it was like the work just gets done for us. not for us, but for humanity. And,
Yeah.
yes, we have an intention. We have an idea that we want. We would love it for more people to break out of trance. But if we focus on the trance and our frustration, they're going to stay there.
Yeah, and sadness, and yeah, right.
But if we focus on, wow, this is the world I'm creating around me where I've broken out, Rita's broken out. We've noticed this person's broken out of their trance. We've noticed this person's broken out of their trance. And we feel the joy. And we don't pay any attention to any of the frustration. We feel pure joy, pure love, pure truth happening. Wow, it happens all around us.
Mm-hmm. And remember how freeing it felt when we understood that it didn't matter how many followers or how many people, we didn't have to pay attention to how many people saw us speaking various topics into reality, making them exist because we said it. And it's not the words, it's not us having any special magic, like you said. That's just how things actually work. And the internet and YouTube and various other technologies were just sort of reflecting what already existed that we just weren't using. And so, that just opened up an entire universe of possibilities because it didn't have to be measured by bizarre metrics.
Yeah. And you and I knew that we knew, and we even foretold that all the forces of censorship would fall away. You and I foretold that. We even felt that. We're like, all this censorship effort, it's going away. We're seeing it, and it's just we have to see it to know that it's going away. And it did.
It had to be there in order for us to understand we didn't need to work with it.
Right. And it was just an opportunity. That was our gift right there. We could choose to focus on all the frustration, all the countermeasures, all the calculations, all the resistance and yelling. But you and I, we just sort of said, what a great opportunity. Oh my goodness. We know it's going to go away. This is one more step. It's like every stone that's put in place in front of you as an obstacle becomes your gift to recognize it and realize that you have all the power in the world to just touch that and move it aside, and it will comply, because God's truth and God's love is much more powerful than an obstacle like that. And if we just treated it like, oh, it's just a pebble in the path, a loving pebble, to show that we have more love to explore, and we have more of an opportunity to gaze into that love and truth, despite, or not despite, but what's the good word I'm thinking of? Especially, find the love in everything that's done for us, and not feel victimized by, a circumstance, and think that we have no control over it.
Yeah.
Oh, we create the fear of the universe if we want to. But we learned that we could create the love of the universe if we wanted to.
Those two things right there that you said made it really easy for others to experiment with their intention. Because that you said earlier, and it will comply. And so people lit up, oh, well, I can have compliance. So that brought up all of these control desires and addictions. And they noticed that it didn't work the same way as approaching a problem with love and truth and feeling the gift of it, rather than trying to manage and control it into something different, but to love it for what it is and the possibilities that it brings to expand ourselves and notice what we are bringing forth habitually, and that those habits are the very reason that these circumstances came to us. Those contrasts or distinctions became really obvious to connect dots in order to steer away from addictions towards love and truth.
And now a lot of us just sort of see those things like, oh, there's yet another reminder. Okay. This is a reminder that some things in our path where we just need to choose between our addictions and fear or love and truth. And it's like, oh, thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a gratitude.
Love. Yeah, happy.
It's a gratitude to show us, do we need to self-correct? Oh, we just need to bring in more love. There's just more love to like bring in.
Mm-hmm.
And so it becomes this abundance flow. It's weird. It's hard to explain how, a climate or global event that some would strike fear and some we see as, oh my gosh, look at this correction. Look at this opportunity. It's so wonderful. And then we speak that and just, I like it because every once in a while we like to just sort of look around like, what happened? We just spoke that once and now we see it here and here and here. I like that because I want to still be amazed and wondered and keep that wonderment as a child or as a curious person. I really love that when I get those wonderment moments, and I don't want to be arrogant about it. So I love that when that happens. I love it when oh my gosh, that really happened.
Mm-hmm.
So we learned to stay humble. The more we stayed humble, the more we learned to discover rather than manage a prediction or set goals. Or now, if we were just only speak this into fruition, then this will change in the world. It didn't work that way, and we learned that we couldn't do that. That's not going to wake people up out of trances. That's actually just putting ourselves back into a trance of, goal setting and
wanting it the way we want it.
Yeah, everything the way we want it. And that doesn't work. So we learned that. And that was a gift too.
Yeah. And who knows what would have happened if we hadn't been exploring this. I mean, it was bad enough already, and it was on its way to be worse. And just bringing more love into the world, who knows what that shifted.
Well, and long ago, you had a statement you said about, someone commented on your art or, wow, what does it take to be such an artist like you? And all you said was, I was just more courageous.
Yes. And actually it was honest, that those two go together.
Honest. Oh, I heard.
Honest in what we're all capable of.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just more honest. And maybe it was me too. I'm just a little more courageous. Mm-hmm. Just because I want to see what happens. So
it's for sure both.
Not to impose a will, but I want to see what happens. It's like, let's step out a little, be courageous, because I'm anxious to see what happens. Not anxious, but like that childlike, ooh, like when you got the finger paints, you're like, what if I mix yellow with this, and what's it going to look like?
Mm-hmm.
But you're courageous enough that you're going to do it.
Yeah.
And then you see it and you're like, oh my gosh, it was different than I thought it would be, but it made my day.
Mm-hmm.
And you walk around like, yeah, I know how to make green. I know how to make green from 2 colors, and it was always that way, but I know how. So, but you're not like gloating for yourself, just like, oh wow, I just learned how to do that.
And isn't it interesting that I knew exactly what you were going to say, because that phrase popped into my mind a couple of days ago.
Oh.
Even though it was maybe 2 years ago that we talked about that. And now I thought it traveled to you and you spoke it.
Yeah.
So let's be more honest and courageous.
So we just realized that, like, as long as we kept away from these trances and showed that it was possible, it spread. It just spread like a virus. So, and then other people just spread that as well. I mean, it's, and of course, not everyone. We still know that people can choose to stay in fear and choose to stay in whatever role they wish. But yeah, all these things that are that people in the fear paradigm deem as negative, they actually are tools to bring about the breaking of trances.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we don't even have to do anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Who are we?
Well, it's such divine intelligence.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah.
We just witness, see it, feel about it.
Yeah.
And God takes over.
And we know that it's part of a loving outcome.
Mm-hmm.
We feel that love of the loving outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's easy to recognize, oh, this is not from me. This is not about my place in this world. This is not about me as an eternal being. This is not about me as a spiritual person. This is someone else's agenda. So why should I deny that part of me?
Yeah. Why should I step into the consequences of their choices?
Right.
Because I love me. And that's important too.
And I think it's just people realizing that they had to like learn to love their eternal me,
Mm-hmm.
not this external what they want to put out to the world to get feedback
Mm-hmm.
or constant attention.
Mm-hmm.
That's an addiction as well.
Yeah.
So it was really feeling like, oh, okay, if I value myself as this consciousness, this traveling that I do, not just here in this world, but everywhere else, then valuing that is a loving act.
Yeah, you're a child of God.
So
That evens everything.
mm-hmm. Anything else that happened that you remember that was kind of fun or funny? I remember like watching like a YouTube psychic, and then this 5-year-old was like watching with her mom, and she's like, I already knew that. I already knew that. I already knew that. So that became viral. I really liked that. Sometimes when our children in the world show us that we're thinking too much,
Mm-hmm.
that was a trance breaking thing.
Yeah.
And trucks going by.
Yeah.
Masking my voice. It's telling me, just stop talking, Scott. You're fine.
There was a lesson.
Yeah.
Just stop talking.
Stop talking. So
we ought to listen to it.
anything else?
I think that's great.
That sounds good.
Yeah. I
And
just
people
remember
are-
the joy that took hold during that time. Counter to what anybody would believe would happen. Joy took hold during that time.
Yes. And joy continues to take hold.
Mm-hmm.
Even more than we imagine every day.
Yeah.
That's the part I love.
Yeah. And watching the transformation of people in that joy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ah.
Okay. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you.